The court battle for the AmaZulu throne has resumed in the North Gauteng High Court. Prince Simakade KaZwelithini Zulu and Prince Mbonisi kaBhekuzulu are challenging the appointment of King Misuzulu KaZwelithini as the heir to the Zulu throne. Members of the royal family supporting Prince Simakade Zulu's claim say they are confident in their challenge of the king's coronation. The case was postponed in May after the king requested more time, as he was still waiting for the now late AmaZulu traditional Prime Minister Prince Mbonisi to depose his affidavit. Counsel for the Zulu royal family says President Cyril Ramaphosa is conflicted and does not believe that he will be impartial in the appointment of the Zulu king.
The matter is such that the president is can no longer be trusted by the Zulu royal family to be a neutral investigator and decision maker on this issue. Precisely because you'd have seen, my lord, the royal family complains a lot about the fact that there was a public endorsement by the president. Even during the course of this application, when this application was already before the court, and he had already submitted an affidavit explaining how he went about coming to the decision he came to. He was seen in a very big meeting at the stadium in Durban, publicly endorsing a decision that was clearly a subject of these proceedings. And we'll take the matter further, because we say the president's decision, in the face of being told by a senior member of the royal family that the Madondo application, which places incredible reliance on, was a subject of an application for leave to appeal, or at least the royal family at that time was telling him that they were going to appeal the decision of Justice Madondo. The president says, I waited 4 days for you to do that. And of course, that can't be a reasonable response. I know it's no more than 4 days, but that's what the affidavit of the president says. 4 days. So we say, for the purpose of asking the president to commission an investigation in terms of the act, we say that there are certain requirements that ought to have been met in any event. Firstly, there has to be a decision by the royal family. And if the president comes to the conclusion that the decision, the identification decision, was not done in accordance with the customs or practices or the law, that's when the trigger for investment comes up.
Let's stay with the story and speak to Professor Musa Xulu, who is the Cultural Expert and Heritage Development Trust Executive Director. Prof, thank you so much for your time. What, we've also heard from Advocate Masugu is that, he's arguing that the decision by the president to recognize King Misuzulu was rushed because the family did not identify the successor or submit an application to the president that should have then, ended the matter there. I wonder, what are your thoughts then on that?
Well, thank you very much, my sister. It's a very unfortunate turn of events, because the way now you can look at it is that if that meeting to nominate King Misuzulu as the successor was not brought together lawfully, meaning that many members of the royal family were excluded, then there's a real problem there. And secondly, of course, the assertion by the lawyer, the advocate, that the president rushed. Usually when there's a dispute and you are going to adjudicate at some stage in that dispute, let me say the president knew now that there was two sides that were fighting this out. He would have been advised to look at side A and then look at side B and get another panel of now cultural experts to say, this is the most probable way in which it should be done. You must remember that each side of the two sides has a cultural motivation for it. Another point could be that possibly the president did not listen to the cultural motivation of the other side, and therefore would be seen to be one-sided in his decision. But I'm saying the key is how was that first meeting called? Were there the correct people from the royal household, or were there relatives and other people who would not really have should have been given an opportunity to participate in the nomination of the king?
So listening to some of, those who are watching these developments on the sidelines, and even some within the family itself, others are saying that this is a moot issue though, because the king is already on the throne. The kingship is a birthright. So what was the meeting going to achieve? I wonder how then do you respond to those?
Well, the motivation about the birthright comes only after, according to the law, there has been a meeting of the royal family. You don't just motivate. There must be a meeting of the royal family attended by the correct members, not people maybe like the biblical, where Christ says, then they started, collecting anybody and everybody from the street corners. So that will have to be, because the advocate is arguing that they have the list, and this list consists of the actual members of the family. I would say the person, for example, who would have been correct in calling that meeting, according to the 2019 Act, would have been somebody born of, say, King KaBhekuzulu, the father of King Zwelithini, or somebody born of King Solomon. In that order, that is the core of the royal family. Possibly that was overlooked in the beginning.
So now, of course, we can never predict how the courts are going to rule on this particular one, but should they rule in Prince Simakade's favor, how much of a crisis does that create?
Well, either way, it's going to be a crisis, because in the past, we used to believe that once a king is on the throne, then he's on the throne, and then so on and so on. But if you follow legislation now, in the democratic South Africa, there are limitations to that. And there are many of these challenges sitting in the courts around the country, even for the chiefs and so on. If the court rules in favor of Prince Simakade, this is the likely scenario. The court will say that process to nominate the next king should start from scratch. And if it starts from scratch, it will also say who could call that meeting. I suspect it would be somebody like Prince Mbonisi, or all of those people born of King KaBhekuzulu, the late father of the late King Zwelithini. And then, of course, they will sit and then they'll nominate who they nominate. And then they will then, according to the Act, have to do a cultural motivation as to why they nominate this one. And that is what the president will have to consider. But if there's a dispute, he will have to look at both sides. I must say, though, the most regrettable thing here, maybe it should not have come to this, the relationship between Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi and His Majesty the King towards the end of the life of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, which became very negative, was very unfortunate. Because now you have those affidavits from Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi which are not signed, and they are being presented there at court, and people are arguing, how can you present an affidavit which is not signed, and so on and so on. I am saying, either way, however it goes, there will be a crisis, because whoever gets nominated, the other side will challenge, but it's going to be a long-drawn battle. But in terms of now, the only thing maybe King Misuzulu can pray for is that the judge does not say that the process must start from scratch.